Hello, thank you for joining us. Ilan, maybe we'll start with you.
Excellent.
Okay, so tell us the importance of grassroots activism in campuses in North America and Argentina.
Absolutely. So we all know that college students are the future leaders of our countries, and we need to really put the resources in order to support them. Some of the main challenges that we see today on college campuses, it's organized grassroots activists like Students for Justice in Palestine or activists of the BDS movement that try to impact the hearts and minds of the college students. Now, what we did is to start a student group under one name and one goal that will operate in 3 different countries now, nearly 200 college campuses, in order to be an authentic part of the campuses and be a registered student club on each university under the name Students Supporting Israel. At the 125th Zionist Congress, we are proud to make sure that our name on colleges is Students Supporting Israel. We stand for what we believe in proudly and trying to be a resource to Jewish and non-Jewish students alike that looking for a home to represent Israel, combat anti-Zionism, and combat anti-Semitism.
You know, 10 years ago, I was visiting the US and I talked to some young Jewish community members that were talking about how difficult it is to recruit new members to fight in campuses against BDS, against other groups inside the campuses. Do you feel it now, or is it easy to recruit people?
If it's easy, I probably wouldn't be here today. But because it is hard, this is actually one of our main challenges because we're looking to recruit, there's more college students in the United States alone than Jewish people in the entire world. So it is our job to get out there and to be visible and to table a lot with an Israeli flag. Because a lot of times students will tell you, I love Israel, but they will keep the Israeli flag in their dorm room. Our job is to make sure that we take this flag from the dorm room to the campus grounds, table being seen and recruit Jewish and non-Jewish students alike. Because if it would be just advocating for Israel within Jewish spaces, our challenge would be much harder. We need to get involved in student government, and until today we passed 26 resolutions in student governments across the United States and Canada, calling for the adoption of the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, calling for more cooperation with Israeli institutions and academia, and we need to make sure that we're visible in our pride to Israel, because only by being strong and proud, that's when students will respect you, appreciate you, and will join your movement.
Hi, Brooke.
Hi.
Maybe a few words about the Lawfare Project and how it impacts litigation.
Sure. First, I want to say thank you to the WZO for having me. It is such an honor to be here, and it's such a significant event, and I'm so pleased to be on a panel with advocates that I admire so much. So I am the CEO and founder of the Lawfare Project. We are a Jewish civil rights litigation fund. We arrange for pro bono legal counsel and financial support to Jewish persons and communities who are discriminated against. And in short, we file what we call impact litigation. I think that litigation is one of the most effective tools that we have. Unfortunately, I think we are late in the game. You can see litigation being used against us. We see it at the International Court of Justice. We see the war crimes charges filed against Israeli officials. Our enemies have multi-million-dollar litigation funds, and yet only about 6 years ago, with the launch of the Lawfare Project Litigation Fund, have we really gotten into the game of strategic offensive litigation. And the metrics are very real. We achieve results, we file cases, we have targets, we either win or we settle the case, and the return on investment is real because what you are creating is a precedent, not just against the defendant, but also a deterrent effect against like behavior. So in sum, over the past 5.5 years, we have filed over 120 cases in 17 different jurisdictions. We've recruited over 500 lawyers and 42 major law firms to the cause.
Can you maybe tell us about one or two significant cases you feel?
Sure. So for this purpose, I would say that there are two cases that I would mention. One is a case that we settled. It was against San Francisco State University, or SFSU. And the facts there were that the Hillel students, which was the only Jewish student group on campus and not political, was denied the ability to table at a Know Your Rights fair, which is when the students get together and they recruit at the beginning of the year for people to be part of their club. And the Hillel students were asked what they think about the occupation. They answered. Apparently, it was the wrong answer, and they were denied the ability to table. So we sued the school for discrimination. And what was so significant is that the school did not deny that the Jewish students were not given a table, but their argument was, well, they were not denied because they were Jewish. They were denied because they're Zionists. And Zionism is a political point of view, and therefore it's not a protected category under the California UNRRA Act, the Anti-Discrimination Act. And obviously the answer to that was, not only is Zionism an integral part of our cultural, ethnic, and religious identity, but only Jewish students, and Ilan knows this well, are given a political litmus test before they're allowed to participate. You don't go to the Muslim Student Association and ask them what their position is on Iranian nuclear disarmament. You don't go to the Chinese Student Association and ask them what they think about COVID. And if they give you the right answer, they can participate. Only the Jews are given these political litmus tests, and that was de facto discriminatory. And we ended up settling the case, and amongst other things, the California State University system, according to the settlement, had to adopt a policy in the form of a statement recognizing, quote, that Zionism as an important part of the Jewish identity. Therefore, anti-Zionist discrimination is indeed a civil rights issue, not a political issue.
Thank you. Gideon, you're defending the human rights of Jews in the UK. Which legal actions and investigations did you take in this field?
Look, we started out in 2014 during Suketan, and I remember there were people marching down the streets of London under signs saying, "Save Gaza, Hitler, you were right." And the police, looking at that, saw somebody exercising their right to demonstrate rather than seeing somebody committing a hate crime. And we determined to set out to try and change that in three ways. We set out at Campaign Against Anti-Semitism to, first of all, make anti-Semitism a major public issue in the UK and to try and change the British public's opinions about it. Two was to start bringing litigation, and three was to actually try and change government policy, such as getting Hamas and Hezbollah banned by the government, getting the British government to be the first in the world to adopt the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. So that has been very successful. Some of the recent litigation that we've done has seen us do everything from bankrupting the Jewish co-founder of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, through to bringing action that saw we brought an investigation by the Equality and Human Rights Commission in the UK against the Labour Party. And people will remember, we had Jeremy Corbyn. He looked like he could become Prime Minister of the UK. He said that Hamas and Hezbollah were his friends. He was somebody who, every single time he was challenged on his views, said, "I'm just anti-Zionist, I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm a passionate campaigner against racism." His political nickname was Magic Grandpa. He was like a beloved character. And so we had this job of convincing the British public, through the British media, that this was someone who was deeply dangerous. And we also had the job of trying to figure out a legal route of dealing with a politician. And in a democracy, you have very few options for doing that. The way you deal with politicians is through elections. And what we were able to do was get the Equality and Human Rights Commission, which is a body that was created by the Labour Party, to do its first ever investigation into a political party and find the Labour Party institutionally anti-Semitic. And we went from a position of this guy being known as sort of Magic Grandpa to, comedians on circuits. They had like a skit where Jeremy Corbyn gets into a taxi and the taxi driver looks in his rearview mirror and says, "Hey, Jeremy, don't you remember me? It's Aziz from Hamas." And that's the kind of narrative that the British public were getting into. And we've continued that. We just sued a university in the UK to get them to fire one of their professors who had been claiming that Jewish students on campus posed a threat to Muslim and Arab students because of their Zionism. We've gone through. I mean, I just told the co-founder of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, who is Jewish. We managed to get a British court to agree that we could legitimately call this guy a notorious anti-Semite, and he was saying, "But I'm the son of a rabbi," and we were saying, "Yeah, but you also think that Jews are Nazis." So, we've had a lot of success in these areas, and I think as Brooke was saying, there is a huge amount of work that we need to do as a people to use litigation in a strategic manner to make sure that people who say that they're anti-Semitic or say that they're anti-Zionist or disguise themselves in any particular way, we've got to bring to bear the rights that democracy affords us to defend ourselves.
So you're telling me someone called himself the Magic Grandpa and no one was suspicious?
I mean, I personally, I think someone calls themselves Magic Grandpa, you should run the hell away. But the British public were taken in for a while, and we were able to. I think that there's an extra weight that comes with litigation when you've got like an official commission of inquiry saying this party is becoming institutionally anti-Semitic, this person has allowed these things to happen. It's no longer a debate. It's now official, and it changes the narrative.
I'm going to use this Magic Grandpa. Joanna, you founded Vibe Israel to change the way people around the world think and feel about Israel. It's somehow the different side of the same coin. In your view, what is the perception of the world of the majority of people regarding Israel?
So first of all, thank you to the World Zionist Organization for this wonderful conference. And I just want to start by saying that my parents made Aliyah from England when I was very young, so it was their choice. But when I joined the army and eventually sort of decided to make my life in Israel, that was my choice. And it became my choice because I love living in Israel. We spent the last couple of hours hearing about how awful things are, how terrible everything is, and I'm feeling myself lose the energy, and I'm still reeling from yesterday with all the positive energy that we heard from all the amazing things that are going on in Israel, and we mustn't lose sight of the fact that Israel is a country, not a conflict. And I refuse to let the BDS movement define, for me, the story that I tell about Israel. Thank you. And I think that what is fascinating to me at this particular conference, I go to quite a few conferences where they're about Jews and about Israel, and we do a lot of complaining. That's what we do, and that's fine. And in this conference, what I noticed was going on was that we're here in the leadership conference, and yes, we're concerned, and that's absolutely justified, and there are amazing initiatives going on to try and fight that. But we are also given a tremendous amount of inspiration from what's going on right now in the room next door, where there are tons of young people talking about exciting, uplifting, inspiring things that Israel does for the world.
Joanna, don't go.
And what's important for me to say is that there was some Facebook research a couple of years ago that we all own this, right? Everybody has one of these, especially young people. And young people and people in general scroll the height of the Statue of Liberty every day on their phones, okay? That was in 2019. I expect it's now the height of the Burj Khalifa, okay? Now, when they're scrolling about Israel, what are they seeing? If they are not seeing something that's positive, inspiring, relevant to them, they will not be interested. And you ask me about what do I feel, people feel? I don't look at feelings. I look at data. And we ignore a huge blind spot. Every single piece of data shows us that the majority of people, when they are asked about Israel, they do not have an opinion. They are a silent majority, like Sylvan likes to say, and we're ignoring them. The way to engage them, and I think that work is as important as everybody else's here, and I agree with everything that was being said, but we have to bring an inspiring, positive, relevant message about Israel to the silent majority so that they want to become advocates, so that they want to become, like we saw before, people who have no reason to want to support Israel other than the fact that they feel sorry for us or that they feel some kind of moral obligation. I don't want that. I want them to support Israel because they think Israel is amazing, and that is what Israel is.
And you say all of this to shape differently the opinion about Israel, but you also say there is an exception, conflict time, right? Especially when you talk about social medias.
Yeah, obviously, just like we're not going to talk about, how terrible Israel is, we're hoping that they won't have a conversation about the negative aspects of Israel while we're doing a business pitch or while we're talking about how great the Israeli food is. We're not going to bring cherry tomatoes and wonderful Israeli tech into a conversation that is about human rights issues relating to Israel. These are two parallel conversations. And from my experience of working on social media and promoting Israel positively over the last 10 years and creating over 1 billion positive views of Israel, I can definitely tell you that social media is the most effective place to promote Israel positively, but it is unfortunately the least effective and almost dangerous place to try and change people's political opinions about Israel, because nobody goes onto social media to be told that they're wrong. None of us do. And so we won't be able to, in the split second that we have, to change people's opinion. It's too deep. We need to do all sorts of things like the things that are happening on this stage today. And while we're doing that, we have to promote the positive of Israel.
Can I add something also?
Sure.
We talk a lot about pro-Israel advocacy, but I don't think we talk enough about Jewish advocacy, because we are living now in an age of minority rights movements. Okay, we have Black Lives Matter, the New Women's Movement, the Gay Rights Movement, the End Asian Hate Movement. And what it's teaching us is that people care about civil rights. But we are talking about a foreign country. We're talking about a foreign conflict. We're talking about foreign policy, laws. We're not making feel-good arguments, and we're not arguing that the Jewish community, as a minority community in the diaspora, in fact, the oldest, most persecuted minority community in human history, is deserved of equal protection, is subjected to systemic racism and bigotry, is subjected to cultural appropriation and apartheid and genocide and colonial occupation in our own land. And I think if we spoke this way, it would resonate more.
No, I believe that we also, just like your colleagues say, we cannot let others define what Zionism is for us. Our students, our youth, needs to own the word Zionism, to know what it is, to know how to define it. And just like we don't let others define what racist means for them, we cannot let others define what Zionism means for us, for our people.
Franz, it was fascinating. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you for having us.
I'm excited.